All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's what we're going to do. I had a bunch of people. It's amazing. I get groups of questions. I think the good Lord's watching out over me. He's saying, okay, Matt, we're going to talk about this time. And he'll give me a handful of people who ask generally the same questions. And I go, okay, that's what you want me to talk about. And what it is, we talked about this last year, but we need to talk about it again. It's about the ownership of weapons, ages, and special oddity laws and things of that nature. So we're going to basically talk about the basic and then go over the more complex about it.
Yeah, but look, this can roll over into some other subtopics that really aren't about the transfer of weapons, or more about possession and travel and out of state, and then we get into some federal. Just
every one of those is going to be good because we got a good 25 minutes.
Well, no, I don't even think we're going to get there. Is what I'm saying. And if you have some of these questions that we don't cover, just email me and say, hey, what about this specific circumstance? Because sometimes those specific circumstances are ones that don't get covered because we don't have time to cover every specific circumstance. So if you do, just make sure you holler at me by email. That's Benton@Watson.legal, Benton@Watson.legal. If you guys are listening, you guys know how to get a hold of Matt, and he can get a hold of me and ask me, or we can collaborate on some ideas. If you want to call, you can call the office at 254-605-4140. That's 254-605-4140. Call today.
And I'd prefer you to call now. And let me give you the number that I want you to call on because I want to avoid the static problem. Give me a call at 254-697-4721. That's right here in the studio. Okay? And we'll get you on if you got a question about ownership, possession, child, age, location, blah, 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 blah. This is going to go all over the planet in this segment, and we're going to need an hour, but we're going to do it in 25 minutes. So 254-697-4721. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't call, you're wrong. And I'll tell you why. Because a majority of you don't know the answer to these questions. So call up, ask your question, give an opinion. Anything bad goes to Trey. Okay? All the good stuff comes my way. Trey, make sure it's the good stuff. I'll be answering the phone. So, all right, here we go. My basic question was, what is the legal age you can own a firearm? It's a simple question with a complex answer. So why don't we hit that first?
The legal age at which you can own a firearm.
Right.
So there's not going to be, in my opinion, any restriction on that age. Okay? Now, you're going to talk about what is the use of you owning it. That's a different story. So my answer to that question would be that there's no specific age as far as the ownership. You said a while ago you disagree. I don't know why you would ask me that loaded question as the first question, but because it is a loaded question. But okay, my answer is going to be I don't think there's an age as far as
you showed
ownership of the weapon.
You showed me right there in the law something that I don't really teach in my license to carry class. Like you had just mentioned, there's hundreds and thousands of laws. You don't know them all. You can't. It's impossible. Just like me. I break down my knowledge into a certain area to become as proficient as I can in it. But that was outside the realm of the license to carry bubble. So when you show it to me, I go, oh, I get it. But we got to clarify as to why we get it now, so these people out here know.
That rule that I just showed you is an easy one to remember once you understand the foundation of it. Okay, so the one I showed Matt came in one of the transfer firearm to possession of firearm in the Texas Penal Code. And it basically says that you cannot sell to a minor without written consent of the parents. And we talked about that. I did a show with Rick Dodd. It was just me and him one day when you were out, and we spoke about the requirements to transfer a firearm to a minor. And the other one is if you give it, and I think the example that we gave, can I give my nephew, right, my shotgun for Christmas? Okay, and I can't. I cannot even give it. I can't even gift it to him unless my sister were to give me consent. Okay, and then let's say that I didn't want to give it to him. He wanted it, but I paid a lot of money for it, and I said, okay, man, I'll sell it to you for half the price because you're my nephew. Right? If I sell it to my nephew, who's only 12 years old, if I sell it to my nephew, okay, my sister actually has to give me written consent. Okay, and so the basis for this is, right, a child has no, in the law, legally speaking, has no competency to consent to the making of a contract.
But they do have competency to decide what gender they want to be. Isn't that amazing?
God, where did that? I don't know what that has to do with firearms.
So we're going and then. Whoop. Thanks, Matt.
Hey, you gotta keep
it on top.
Gotta keep it active, man. Gotta keep it moving.
I honestly thought he says, but they do have competency to own a firearm.
Giving my tendencies, I have no comments on being male or female.
Stick to the notes, man. Stick to the notes.
Okay, so here we go. So if I'm gonna sell it, okay, then I've got to have a written consent from the parent, the guardian, the legal representative, whatever. All right. If I'm gonna give it away, if I'm gonna gift it, I just have to have consent from the parents. All right. And then we spoke about a lot of situations. Do not make me go into every single situation. Yes, you got to. A child's got to be supervised, right, by a parent in some of these situations. But when we're going hunting, right, given access to a firearm by a child. But what are your risks? Let's say you gave a firearm to a child without the consent of the parents. You're going to be in trouble for allowing a minor access to a firearm.
That is if something ever happened and they come down to find out how they
No, that's not what the law says, right? We talked about the practicality, and we talked about the weapon that you tried to get me to admit it was okay to have, the right that wouldn't fire if you lock this pin in place. Okay? And I said, yeah, that's a good weapon.
I know, but nobody's going to know unless they did something stupid, right?
That's what I said. I said, it's not trespass unless you get caught. Right? Okay, so, all right, well, but I'm just telling you, the law says that their mere access to the weapon, okay, a readily dischargeable firearm right there constitutes the crime. Okay, and so, yeah, I would just be careful. I would get consent regardless. Okay, I think the federal law is going to say that you got to be 21 to own a handgun. You got to be 18, right? For a regular firearm. Texas law is not going to be that way. They're just going to say, as far as possession and this is that is concerned, it's going to be 18. All right. These problems are going to come up though when, like you said, you're going to be trying to give a gift to a kid. You're going to be trying to give a gift or sell something to a child. It's another reason why you might want to have a trust. We talked about the trust on here. You can actually do a gun trust, right, to alleviate some of these problems. But another good reason for this is you could have a trust generally, just a general trust, and you could have a trustee, okay, that would be over that trust, and they would be in charge of the firearms until your child turned 18 or 21, okay, and those are going to comply with the federal law because it's going to be an inheritance or devise, right? You're not going to have any multi-interstate problems, or at least not as many. If you have a state that completely outlaws some kind of weapon, maybe you might run into some problems. But as far as those transfer laws across state, that's going to alleviate that because it's going to be an inheritance, a devise kind of issue, right? You're also going to avoid probate. People aren't going to see the weapons that you have. That could help you. A lot of people don't want the government or anybody else to know what kind of weapons they have. It would almost be, in other words, when you do probate, when you die and go to probate, I guess I didn't think about explaining this, but when you, this is one of those sub things, but I'll just tell you, when you die and go to probate, you got to do an inventory of your estate, a large inventory of your estate, and so that would require you to list your weapons specifically. Nobody wants to do that, okay? And it would, what's the difference in having to do that and just registering your weapons with the government if it's already on file about what your weapons are with the county, which is the state, okay? So a lot of people don't want to do that. That'd be another reason for advocating for a trust and having a trustee responsible for what happens to those weapons, right? Doesn't get any transfer in trouble to it, also qualifies. So you have that.
You know, you've talked about these trusts before, and every time you talk about it, I'm like, you know, that's a good idea. It really is. It's just, it takes people to go to action to actually get it done. But it sounds very, very good. It can keep a lot of trouble away from you by getting a trust.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about weapons and or even things, property that is a cause of liability or very valuable pieces of property, real estate, one of them for sure. But we talk about planes and boats and things
now,
like that.
We didn't. This isn't a setup for promoting you, but I know you do that. That's one of your main functions is doing trust, right?
Yes, it is. But it's important to talk about the trust in the gun aspect because these are done all the time. And you know, I mean, how many friends do I have that has just not just a locker, but like a room full of weapons. They have an arsenal at their house. That's not the kind of thing that makes it easy on, right, an executor, because your wife or whoever, your wife doesn't want all those weapons. Okay, sorry, she doesn't want all of them. She may. I'm telling you how it generally works. It's usually one person that wants that many. Okay, and the other one's just like on a general need basis. I need a shotgun, a rifle, and a handgun. That's all I need. Okay. And so,
but there's a shotgun for this, and then a shotgun for that.
I know. See, I'm not telling you it's wrong or something like that. I'm just making clear that a lot of times other members of the family are not as big gun enthusiasts as.
I only need one shotgun for bird hunting. I only need one shotgun for home defense. I only need one shotgun for the truck. I only need one shotgun for the car.
See,
it all depends.
Yeah, but I'm sure that that you're right. But nobody else is gonna, not nobody else, but I'm talking generally speaking. In the family, right, there's probably gonna be some folks, probably, it's usually a wife. Not always, like I said, I don't mean to.
I don't know, man, there's a lot of snowflakes out there now, so who knows? Women may be in charge now.
Well, regardless, it's usually one spouse.
254,
it's usually one spouse.
697,
He's just trying to get you guys riled up and call in. So it's just about one spouse usually not wanting as many as another, okay, and it comes hard on them to figure out how to transfer it, this and that. But you could put somebody over that, in charge of that, where it would be easier to deal with, much easier to deal with. You wouldn't have to go through probate and get permission to sell it and stuff like that either. It'd be a whole lot easier. Or we talked about too, you're going to have federal laws involved, right, in the transfer of firearms, and so that would be another reason to do a trust. You could lay out, right, in the trust the requirements instead of having, right, your wife or whoever your representative is later to go figure it out. Okay? And some of those things are going to be, can't be under protective order. Right? Can't be a felon. Can't be a fugitive from justice. Can't be, right, addicted to alcohol or drugs, or currently like a person who is suspicious of being on such. You can't be convicted of family violence. You can't, you got to be a citizen of the United States. And never renounced your citizenship. You got to, you cannot have been dishonorably discharged from the military. There's a few others. What am I missing?
Are you familiar with this? I'm asking because I'm ignorant to it. Other than honorable, would that disqualify you? Or is it specifically, because we're always talking legal terms, if you were dishonorably, then you can't?
Why would it?
Other than honorable means... They're not,
yeah, other than honorable. No, so I believe that the federal law is dishonorable discharge.
Okay, so the key word, so even if you did have that, based on what we're reading right now, you'd be eligible.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, which, yeah, okay. You're talking about the middle ground, when they don't give you a dishonorable, but they don't give you an honorable.
I know when I'm giving you examples, you say, if I have to go to what the law says, so I just want to clarify that that's one of those situations.
I don't have that one, I don't have that rule in front of me, but yeah, I would, I think, I'm pretty sure that rule says, but I'm pretty sure that.
I would think it would be too, because otherwise it would say it.
Okay, you also asked me a question well, actually you asked me and I didn't see it until today, so that was my bad. But I didn't see the question, can somebody in the military, right, get their LTC and at the same time not be able to carry LTC?
Can I reiterate that question, because I want to make sure that it gets out the way I want it to, and then you can answer it. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a segment in License to Carry. It allows an individual who is active duty or in some type of military reserves, National Guard, if you're 18 to 20, you can't buy a pistol, okay? But the law says if you're in the military from 18 to 20, you can go ahead and get a license to carry and carry a weapon. So technically, you can't buy a handgun until you're 21.
That's not true. You could buy a handgun by a private sale.
I didn't get there yet. Okay, so here you are. You cannot go out there and buy a handgun. However, you can go and buy a public sale, but technically, if they're buying a handgun from somebody between the ages of 18 and 20, that's illegal. Unless it was given by a parent with consent, but then you're over that 17-year age mark. See that little gray area?
That's only going to apply if they're under 18 years of age. Okay, so
let's stick between 18 and 20 then. They can't buy a handgun, and they can't buy a handgun.
They can buy it by private sale.
But that's illegal, isn't it?
How is it illegal?
Because you have to be 21 to buy a handgun.
On the federal level, but the state level is gonna apply to transfers, and that federal one is probably only going to apply to somebody with that license. I think between family members you can have a transfer. So you could have a private sale, in my opinion, of a handgun.
That's interesting because I promote it as though,
and you should.
I think my way maybe have a couple flaws.
So you can't. So you telling me I can't give a minor, my nephew, I can't give him my .22 pistol
for use, for possession.
If I give it to him, he owns it.
And now you're getting technical again. My point is, you can't give it to him. It's your gun now.
What's the difference? What's the difference if in the parent giving written consent and them owning it, okay, and somebody owning it that didn't need parental consent?
But that was 17 or younger.
So you're telling me if I give my nephew the firearm, the handgun, and the parent signs off on it, as soon as they become 19, it's illegal?
All right, if we're
it's legal up until it's legal from the time they're 10, right? But then as soon as they hit 19, it becomes illegal.
Well, then let's clean it up. Let's clean it up then. If you can get a license from 18 to 20 because you're in the military, why can't you legally, federally, state-wise, go to Academy or go to ANC Firearms?
I thought your question was because it's a federal firearms dealer.
So then why won't?
And it's a licensed dealer. From a licensed dealer,
and it's a state license. That's why.
I don't even think you could get it from a state license either, but you could get it from party to party private sale. Now, I don't know the answer to that question for sure, but I'm confident that would be the answer.
See, I'm learning something here because, like I said, what you're teaching is.
And like I said, my truck was locked and I couldn't get my stuff, so I'll have it if you want me to. If you want to ask me those specific questions, I'll cite you the law to it.
I see what it is right there. I just felt it was kind of conflicting. But now you're putting some light on it where a soldier or a airman or whoever, whatever branch of service you're in, you're 18 to 20 and you can't buy a pistol until you're 21, but you can get a license. It seems like it's contradictory. Why can't, if you're going to defend this nation, if you're going to have access to an LTC, why can't they go and buy their own pistol at a store?
Which is what I was trying to tell you. I didn't understand the exact nature of the question, too, when you think about a peace officer. Wouldn't it be the exact same issue?
Yeah.
I think
unless he's being issued a department weapon, then it's on loan and he's in possession of it, but he's not in ownership of it. But you're going to say you can own it if it's given to you. I'm trying to keep it clean and simple because I don't want anybody getting in trouble. So if you have a license to carry, I felt it was kind of weird. A soldier or whoever, 18 to 20, can serve and defend, but they can't actually go buy a handgun, but they can get the license. Like, great, I got a license, but
I would say there would be a problem for them going and buying a handgun just at a store or something.
But they can go to a gun show because it's state of Texas, personal transfer.
Maybe. They could definitely buy a handgun from their brother.
Okay.
We'll just get their brother to go to the show and buy it, and they buy it from their brother.
You're on your own. 254-697-4721. Give us a call here with some questions. Let me see what else I had on
Or
here.
put it in trust and then have somebody that's 21 years old and then constantly loan it out whenever they need it.
What's the proper way for somebody who's not 21 and doesn't have a license to be able to use a handgun, transport it, take it someplace? What's the deal on that?
I would say there wouldn't be a problem, okay, if it was concealed. That's going to be the issue. At what point can you get your LTC? And that's what the whole issue is with your question is, right? Whereas somebody that was under 21 would not be able to be licensed to carry, okay, their handgun.
Would you not think the probability is very good if a police officer pulls over an 18-year-old and he's got a handgun concealed because your vehicle is your premise with certain conditions, and one of the conditions is if you have a handgun in there, it must be concealed. So
if he's got the license to carry, though, what is the officer going to do?
No, he doesn't have a license to carry.
Okay.
But anybody can carry a weapon in their car as long as it's concealed. This is not talking about long guns. This is strictly talking handguns. If it's going to be in your car, it can be right next to you. It can be locked and loaded, but it must be concealed. But now if a law officer stops a guy or a gal and they're 20, 19, 18, and they've got a handgun, don't you think they're going to have a lot of problems?
Well, that's why you keep it in the console and don't tell him that it's in the console. And so if he's not licensed to carry, he's not required to tell the police officer anything.
That's true, but what happens if for some reason the officer believes he's got probable cause and he does, and he wants to search the vehicle?
What's he going to charge him with?
I I don't know. That's what I'm asking
Minor
you.
in possession of a weapon?
But it should be legal because you're saying he can have possession of it.
There could be a private sale between 18 and 21, right? And then if they're under 18, they could have parental consent.
He may get off the charge, but he may have to go for the ride, right?
I don't know if he's under 18. You're gonna have an issue about.
I don't think that'd be a major concern, especially in the day and times that we live in.
I mean, I would think it would be nothing more than the parent calling up there and saying, this transfer was by private sale. Here's written consent. If he buys it when he's 19.
See, that would be a saving grace right there, like you discussed, because I never knew about that. Signing.
And that's why I said with Rick, I said no matter what kind of gift, whatever, any kind of transfer. I didn't care if it was a sale or a gift, okay, or I didn't care. You need to have written consent.
Let's take it, Trey. Let's see what we got. We got a phone call. Let's see if this is pertaining. Welcome to the show, Aaron's High Cap Adventure Radio program. Who we got on the line?
Hey, this is Squirrel. I got a question about this.
Squirrel, how you doing, buddy?
I let my 17-year-old grandson or son drive my truck, and I've got a 45 in the console. Got to pull him over, do a search, find the gun. Now you got a minor in possession of a weapon. Besides charging the child, are they going to charge me?
That's a good question.
If he,
A gun that's not locked up?
so if he's too old, no, it's not. There's not going to be a charge of minor in possession of a weapon. Okay, it's either going to be unlawful or lawful, right? And if he's got a firearm and he's 17 years old, in my opinion, that's not going to cause any problems. You're not even going to have access to a weapon by a minor because 17 years old doesn't fall within even the 16-year range. So you're outside there being any problem even to access.
Okay, wait a minute. Now I'm confused. Can you give a very easy, quick example of a minor in possession of a weapon?
Okay, it's if the firearm is readily dischargeable and the age is, I think it's up to 14. I think it's 14.
Wow, this is.
Okay, so
Go ahead, Squirrel.
they have to be under 15.
14, yeah.
Younger, okay. Because, you're still a minor at 15, 16, 17 in the state of Texas.
Hey, Squirrel, was that a hypothetical situation or did it actually happen?
No, it's just hypothetical. I was listening to what y'all were talking about. Basically, you're talking the same thing they did in the 70s with alcohol. And 18 years old in the military, you die, but you can't buy a beer. Now you're 18 years old in the military, you have a license, but you can't buy a gun. And then I got to thinking when you were talking about the kid driving the vehicle and the law about the guns have to be locked up, not available to a minor. Well, now I keep guns in my truck all the time because they are locked up, but if the kid's a minor and driving my truck, now I've got a minor with an unlocked weapon.
So generally, child means someone. It changes all the time, but child's going to mean someone younger than 18. Minor's going to mean someone younger than 17. Under the access to a readily dischargeable firearm statute, I thought it was younger than that, but it could be just 16. Okay, so but if he's 17 years of age and he's driving, you're not even going to have that kind of problem. But even if it was just a firearm, as long as it was not readily dischargeable. But again, I go back to they've got to have supervision, right? If they're doing some kind of hunting activity, and in those kinds of cases, and you could have endangerment of a child, right? That's going to be probably younger than 17 as well. I don't think you're having any problems if you've got a 17-year-old. You just need to have written consent from the parent if you're going to sell it to him or even give it to him.
Okay, let me ask you something, Ross. I may be putting you on the spot with this.
I don't remember the age right now. For some reason, it's breaking my memory. But
we got all these different ages going on. In your opinion, in your experience, what could be the most minimal way to say this that will get you out of the gray zones of all these different ages and laws? What would be the most protective thing you could do at the least level?
Which is why I was emphasizing getting the written consent of the parent. getting the written consent of the parent. Okay, I would still, I mean, that's probably the best thing you could do.
So, like, in other words, if I've got a short barrel rifle, I've always got to have the paperwork with it. So if I'm going to be a child in that particular age category, age bracket, and I've got this weapon in possession, I should have maybe that letter of transfer.
Which is another reason why I emphasize doing the trust, right, and having ID cards.
Yeah,
you could have the ID cards, and you could have the name of the trustee on there with the phone number, right, and have the model of the weapon.
Okay. Hey, Squirrel, did that answer your question?
Yeah, bro. It's more complicated.
Hey, to answer your question, I don't think you have a problem. He's 17 years old, right? He's 17 years old. Okay, you're not going to have access to a firearm by a minor. All right, that's not going to come into play. You're not going to have endangerment to a child. That's not going to come into play. Okay, and... Oh, I know. If you're going down to 15, I think you're getting into some area where if it's your gun and you're leaving it in the car, you're getting into an area that could get you into trouble. Okay, if the age is 16, which I can't remember off the top of my head right now, and I'm sorry for that, right? But I am human, right? If that's the age, then yeah, I wouldn't leave any of my weapons in the car with the kid.
I'll tell you what, everybody. I'm going to research this some more, just so I can say a few sentences that may be safe for everything. My initial reaction would be this: to protect yourself, be at least 18 if you're going to be carrying a handgun, because you can transport it, be in possession of it. You can't technically buy it from an FFL, but supposedly you can buy it from a transfer, be given to it as a gift. But at least from 18 to 20, you're covered as compared to being a minor in possession. All right, Squirrel, thanks for the call. I want to get you off the line in case somebody else wants to call in. Thank you. All right, so I'll tell you what, we're running down the clock. Unless you come in with something else, I wanted to ask you about this too. I had questions on gun-free zones. What are they? How do they pertain to you? Somebody with an LTC. You want to give some insight on that?
Well, do you have a question? It'd be easier to answer.
Okay, I've got somebody driving down the road, and they see a sign on the side of the road that says gun-free zone. And they go, you mean I got a license? Can I go there? And it has nothing to do with you having a license. It has to do with...
But if you get in trouble, right, you're going to have an enhanced penalty,
right. So let's say you did
for the crime that you do within that area.
Right, so if you did a crime and it was a Class B misdemeanor within a gun-free zone, then it just bumped up to a Class A misdemeanor.
Okay, it's the same as a drug-free zone.
Yes.
Okay, so if you have... Now, I told you, when you started arguing, I was like, well, what are you talking about? Okay, so you're going to have places, though, that are statutorily off limits, right, for firearms. And I'm not going to go into the very specific requirements about what is a building and what is not a building
for
school
purposes. It's very definite what it is.
I know, but there's little things like that. So, like, there's a difference if you're, say, in a parking lot with LTC versus if you're in the building.
That's right.
Okay, and it says premises.
Does not include sidewalks, walkways, parking lots, or garages.
Okay, so you can be creeping along the sidewalk, right, and not be on the premises. Okay, right. But there's certain things like that I'm not going to go into. But right, it would be if a drug-free zone, if I had possessed marijuana in a place I shouldn't be, right, the penalties would be enhanced. But at the same time, that even though gun-free zone doesn't necessarily mean you can't have guns there, right, it may cross over. Okay, there may be overlap. So if you've got a whole school campus, right, that says it's a gun-free zone, yes, you may be able to have your LTC within the parking lot, which is technically a gun-free zone, okay? But in the building, you can't carry it. You can't carry your weapon, which is also a gun-free zone.
Okay, let me help out on this. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 10 places you can't go if you have a license to carry, okay? There's 2 bonuses, and I teach this in my class all the time. If you can burn into your brain, into your memory, those 10 places and those 2 bonuses, then all you have to do is look for a sign that says you can't go in this particular place. One of those places you need to burn into your head is schools, okay? You can't go into a school, one of these elementary schools, private schools, with a weapon. Forget it. Now, when it comes to state and private colleges, it all depends on what those schools want to do. If you can go into certain places, you can't. So the basic question that was given to me about gun-free zone was somebody was driving down a road and they saw the sign. So they're thinking, can I not drive down this location? What happens if I get stopped but I have my license? So when you get out of your car, if you're driving down the road and you see a gun-free zone, don't sweat it. But if you get out of your car and you happen to go into a particular building, we're always going to look for 30-6 or 30-7 signs. When you see those signs, that means the owner doesn't want you there with a handgun concealed or open, depending on which sign they put up. If there isn't a sign, you just have to remember those 12 places and say, is this one of those 12 places? That's what I teach my students. The first thing you do when you get somewhere, if you're doubting yourself, go, is this place on my list of 12? If it's not, then I just have to look for a sign. Does the sign say 30-6 or 30-7? If it doesn't, I'm good to go. What are you doing?
No, I was just going to check out your text messages.
Okay. All right. I'll tell you what. We're gonna have to close it up because we got to take a commercial break here. Anything you want to wrap up here? Tell them how to get a hold of you. Tell them about the trust, so on and so forth.
If you guys are going to transfer a weapon, just go to Matt. Just go to Matt. Right? Have him do a bill of sale. Okay, and then if he's got a problem, he's going to call me or somebody else. Right? That's going to get you the right answer.
Because here's why that works. The gun that you have in your possession, when you give it to me, I put it in my book. As soon as I put it in my book, that gun belongs to me now. Okay. Once I transfer it over to somebody, they do the proper paperwork on a 4473. They check out it's good to go, and everything's fine. The only problem is if you're transferring it over to somebody who's under 21, then I can't do it unless it's a rifle or a shotgun. And if it's a rifle or a shotgun, it's 18 to 20.
And if that happens, go see probably a lawyer or follow what we're telling you to do. You can do a private sale. Just make sure, if you don't want to get a lawyer involved, just make sure you get written consent from the parents.
Okay.
In my opinion, that's going to get you out of a lot of trouble. And at that point, even if they possess the firearm, now the authorities, if there was something to happen, if there was some problem, now the authorities are going to look to the parents. You knew he had this firearm. You gave written consent for the transfer. It's on you. Okay? It's not on the person who originally sold it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Okay, so now in that area between 18 and 21, right? My opinion is you can have a private sale, you can own a handgun, but go ahead and if you think you've got one of these problems, come by and see me, or like I said, email me at benton@watson.legal, benton@watson.legal. Just make sure you leave your phone number, okay? Or come see me at 105 East Main here in Cameron.
Okay.